Hey everyone. Okay, so admittedly, this is one of those frustrating episodes because while I did like it, the preview kind of straight up lied to me as well. Because here's the thing: this episode promised two things: a banquet and a confrontation with the government. And the episode does gives a lot of one of those things. We definitely got a very boisterous banquet with the giants, and it was a very fun episode in that regard. But as far as the latter, because we saw the confrontation with the government at the tail end of the episode, it's essentially another tease for next week's episode. And look, it's not a bad episode because of that, but it's one of those things where, for as much as I like how Toei is adapting the series properly and adding less in-canon filler into the mix, I am also seeing the downside to adapting more faithfully to the manga, and especially in this episodes like this where because it only adapts a single chapter, it kind of creates the emotional whiplash where effect where I've felt so many times from reading the manga, where my response more often than not is, couldn't you give us just a little bit more of this or that or whatever else? And like I genuinely wanted a little bit more with the government on the government side of things than the banquet, but but it is what it is. The only saving grace I have with this ending is just based off the preview, is that next week is where things are going to start hitting the fan. And trust me, again, if this episode is anything to go off of, shit is going to start hitting the fan. Uh, gripes out of the way, though. I do like how this episode. I do still like this episode, and I know this is the most like broken record comment I can make right out of the gate, but I like how we're continuing to explore proportions and sizes of like how big everything is on Elbaf compared to like a regular person. Like seeing Chopper and Bonnie crawl over a book to read it, even just Bonnie walking on the banister, or hell, even Robin sitting on a book. It's one of those small details that really sells like the reality of this being a world of giants outside of the obvious of the enormous size of the citizens themselves. Um, in saying that, there is something to talk about with the Owl Library itself, though, which is Biblo, as Saul says, is the master of the library, and he's been overseeing it for hundreds of years. Now, admittedly, this is one of those details I definitely skimmed over when reading the manga, but I'll definitely talk about it here because, in retrospect, I like how we're so balls deep into the story now that Oda's not even subtly hiding his foreshadowing anymore. Like, that is the most blatant way of saying that Biblo is likely another one of Joy Boy's allies from long ago in the same breath as Zunisha and Emmett. Like, you don't say someone's been doing a job of overseeing something for hundreds of years without it having some pertinence to the Void Century. Like, I know that's kind of like the most classic thing to go to, and he could have just been a caretaker for hundreds of years. But really, let's be real. Biblo, he's got a connection to basically all those people of being like another ally of Joy Boy and whatnot. And in saying that, one of the funnier moments of the episode for me was seeing Luffy on the swing again, leaning into the context of how, despite the swing, kind of just swinging with the kids, and the kids just like, please let me go, let me down. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, again, leaning into the contrast of how, despite being the kids so much bigger than him, they were still scared of how reckless Luffy is, showing that size doesn't change the fact that it doesn't matter your race. Kids are still kids. The fears and joys they find in life are all the same. And when you're around Luffy, you're gonna find yourself having a lot of fears and a lot of fears, honestly. Um, of course, we do also get the long-awaited meeting between Luffy and Colin, and which went about how you'd expect, but it was very nice setup for the dynamic between them. In fact, out of I will say this: out of all the token kid characters that appear as allies to the Straw Hats in arcs, Colin is probably my favorite, just for how he's so proactive right out of the gate. Like, he doesn't need the motivation to be that, unlike someone like Tama, for example, who is going. Don't get me wrong. I do like the emotional arc that characters go through, and Tama definitely goes through that, but like before she gets to be more proactive. But but it just I do kind of gravitate more towards those characters who do like to take the initiative right out of the gate, and Colin's introduction really sets the tone for who he is as a character. Of course, we also learn more about Colin's father in this episode, that he's a human and an ex-pirate, and basically Ripley's like common law wife. And like we do learn basically a lot of ancillary details about who Colin's father is, and man, do I want to spoil who this man is so bad, but the reveal is just too good. Like I know many manga readers like myself know who Colin's father is, and when it was revealed, it was like it just made all so much more sense now. But yeah, trust me, it's like unless you've been paying attention, you won't know who this man is until he's actually revealed. And on that note, though, we do get confirmation that yeah, Elbaf is an island constructed around a jewel tree, so that in itself goes a long way towards explaining how Elbaf has existed for so long without much disruption, because it would require enormous amounts of firepower and a huge-ass fucking army to take it down. Like, this is the kind of shit where it's like, yeah, it's all, geographically speaking, it all makes sense as to why Elbaf has stood the test of time for so long, because it is literally built on an indestructible barrier. um, now, despite my earlier gripes about the banquet and whatnot, when we do get to the actual banquet itself in this episode, it is a fun time to be sure. As it does feel like the celebration of us reaching this point and showing how earlier encounters with characters like Dory, Bragi, Oimo, and Kashi have really left an impression on Elbaf as a whole, from being hailed as honored guests at the with the Straw Hats now being hailed as honored guests at the banquet, like for basically helping so many of giants throughout the series. Hell, even making characters like Stanson again feels like such a huge payoff from having befriended so many giants throughout the series. Of course, at the banquet, we're also introduced to Elbaf's elder, Chief Ja Rule, and yeah, that is the same Ja Rule from Big Mom's backstory. So that man has quite the storied history among the giants, to be sure, and I'm sure he's probably going to be mentioning Big Mom a little bit with the Straw Hats, which is going to be a fun story to tell. Of course, the episode ends with two strangers from the government demanding to know where Loki is before attacking the guards, and honestly, I forgot just how much of a great first impression the threat of the government left when first introduced in this arc. Like, these aren't just your average government officials. They are something far more dangerous, and it sets the tone for just what kind of threat they pose to Elbaf. Like, it's the type of threat that'll pounce when Elbaf like doesn't even expect it, or even be able to comprehend what's happening. Like, whoever these two are, they are elite soldiers in the government's army, and they're the kind of elite soldiers that make you say, I think we're gonna have to rally all the troops for this one. Like, it's not just gonna be this isn't going to be like any normal fight that the Straw Hats have ever experienced before. It's going to be something completely different. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Blue Sky, Analyst Crunchyroll, bitch notification bell, subscribe button, and just shit it around, guys. Dark Knight signing off. Later, everyone.